Hello Arkansas Arts Academy students. We're making muffins today, blueberry muffins. So the recipe that I'm providing for you has a lot of variations. You don't have to do blueberries, you can even make a streusel topping if you'd like. But what I really want you to focus on right now is the methods that we're using and the process that I'm going through. So when we bake or anytime we do a lab in our culinary kitchen at school, you're required to have proper mise en place. And that entails you going and getting all of the equipment that you'll need to be successful with the recipe and gathering all of your ingredients prior to mixing anything. So I just want to be real clear that mise en place is extremely important before we start baking. If we just start adding ingredients all at once, we may forget if we put salt in it or if we remember the baking powder, the baking soda. So when you have a proper mise en place, you can go through all of your ingredients, check with your recipe, and make sure you have everything measured properly, and that way you will be successful with these recipes. We are ready to put the batter together. So the first thing we're going to do with the creamy method is cream the butter and sugar together. And I'm using my paddle. So don't use your knead attachment or your whisk, but use your paddle attachment. And this can absolutely be done by hand. So let's get that started. Butter started. One thing I had to do is read this recipe prior to putting it together because I knew that my butter needed to be softened, and that takes some time. Okay, good. We've got that butter started, so let's put the sugar in and we're going to start the creaming process. When we bake, it's important to try to get your ingredients at room temperature. That way that dough comes together a lot nicer. So what we're looking for is a pale yellow color, and we want the butter to, the sugar and the butter to be nice and creamed together. So we're going to let that go. I would say for a couple of minutes. Go ahead and wipe down your sides. Wipe down the sides again. And that's coming together really nicely. So we want the this mixture to lose its grittiness. We want it to be nice and smooth and gritty. So we want the sugar to absorb all the butter. Give that one more little scrape down. So my butter was a little chilled, so I'm actually getting it to be more room temperature as it's working, as the mixer's working it. There we go. Now we're just going to add one egg at a time, and I like to tell students if you're a tapper, that's not the best way to crack your egg. It's better just to do one nice crack. As you tap your egg, you're just causing more and more shards, and that could potentially get into your dough or your batter, whatever you're making. eggs are room temperature. I like to turn my mixer off before I add anything to it, just in case you drop something into the mixer. You don't want to break a mixer or ruin your lovely creation in there. You'd have to throw it away. So turn off your mixer before you add additions to your recipe. Okay, that's nicely combined. Now I'm going to add my vanilla. And while that's stirring, I'm going to combine all of my dry ingredients and I'm going to sift it. So this is the flour. And then again, I've measured this out individually. Salt, baking powder, and baking soda. That's a teaspoon of each. It's just so nice that I measured it out and I'm not scratching my head thinking, did I put the salt in there? Did I put the sugar in there already? So mise en place is very important for a successful outcome of a baking product or any product for that matter that you're going to be making in the kitchen. Any creation. Add the last flour. Collect all of my dirty dishes as I go along. In the culinary kitchen, we keep all of our dirty dishes at our station and then go up as stations to the dish pit, the 3-compartment sink, and wash. That way we don't have students putting dishes in there and not being held accountable for washing the dishes. Everybody is responsible, every student is responsible for leaving the kitchen like they found it. And I like to say my kitchen's pretty clean. Our kitchen at the school is very clean. And that's with an effort of all the students helping wash dishes, sweep the floor, and wipe everything down. Alright, very good. Now it is time to start adding the sour cream and the flour. So we're going to start with the flour, and then we're going to mix that, and then we're going to add sour cream and alternate, and we're going to start with flour and finish with flour. And just a stir. Pretty good. So we don't want to overmix. When we overmix muffins, we get something called tunneling. And we also get tough muffins. They're not tender and delicious. So we want to make sure we don't overmix to prevent that tunneling. And we'll crack a muffin open when it's done baking to see if we achieved the right texture. Alright, so that's nicely mixed in. Now we're going to add, I have my lovely spatula. That was a nice holiday gift from a dear sweet friend and colleague, Miss Castleman. Beautiful dancer in person. Sides again, it's smelling so delicious. That sour cream just adds a tanginess to the muffins and helps make it really nice and creamy. Now again with the flour. Sides. we're going to add the rest of this sour cream. Good, and then our last little bit of flour goes in. I'm just going to mix this until it comes together to prevent that tunneling from happening in our finished product. That looks really good. It's just now coming together. Perfect. So then I'm going to remove all the batter from the paddle. There we go. Put that right there. There we go. And now we want to add the blueberries. So I used my scale to add the blueberries. You can do 4 to 6 ounces, and I'm doing fresh blueberries. If you use frozen or canned, make sure that you give them a good rinse. What happens if you don't do that is the blueberry just actually turn your batter blue. So you'll have blueberry muffins. So I'm just going to stir this in. I'm going to try to make sure I don't overmix. Getting to the bottom of the bowl, scraping the sides, and trying to get those blueberries evenly distributed within the batter. And now it's time to put into our muffin tins. So you can use a couple of different methods here. I like to just use the paper liners. You can do the foil, however, I like to freeze muffins if I'm not going to share them with friends, and that way I can portion that out so I'm not eating a dozen muffins in a couple of days. But you can use the spray to help stick your liner to the muffin tin. You can also just use the spray and no liners, but again, I don't recommend using foil liners because when you take them out of the freezer and you put them in the microwave, you can't heat up a foil liner. It will cause a fire in your microwave. So we've got a pretty big scoop, and this helps portion out the batter evenly, so we know that we need all of our ingredients to be evenly distributed. And that goes for cookies, it goes for muffins, biscuits. If we have big biscuits and little biscuits and we put them on the same muffin tin or baking sheet, we will have inconsistent baking. So we'll have some of your product that is overbaked, some that's underbaked, and some that's just right. That's the Goldilocks theory there. We want them to all be just right. So if you portion them out properly and evenly, they will all come out the same. So we're just going to continue to portion these out. This particular recipe yields a dozen. I do have an extra baking muffin tin ready just in case we go a little bit over. And these will go into the oven at 350 for approximately 20 minutes. So the muffins are out of the oven. Let's take a look at some of the options I have. I have these really nice little tulip parchment paper cups, and I put them in a tin, and this half dozen is going to the neighbors. And also an option that you have are these decorative little cupcake holders here, and you can just slide your muffin into one of those just for presentation reasons. Let's give it a try. Got some coffee here. So these muffins are very cake-like. Let's see if we've got any tunneling going on. Oh, no we don't. And it looks like that the blueberries are nicely distributed. Let's give it a taste. are really nice, really cake-like. So one thing I did is I took some sugar in the raw and I sprinkled that before I put them in the oven, and that gives it just a little bit of texture on top. Or you can try the strudel top.